Good morning, Lyle. Kind of an odd time, but I had a little cancellation at work, and I wanted to get to a couple fact-finding events that I've had over the past couple days since our board meeting. Some of my comments were a little challenging to the current mayor and Trustee Kowitzel. Excuse me, I'm going to be slurping. It's coffee time yet. And I apologize to Trustee Kowitzel in particular. You know, her and her family have been in Lyle for a long time, but those relationships come secondary when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish in Lyle, and that's the development of Lyle. And her vote no on something as simple as this potable water well issue and the Highway Authority agreement on Family Square is just another reason why we need more people in Lyle that want to actually develop. They either know how to develop or they're not intentionally trying to hinder that development. So we're going to discuss a couple of those things real quick. So I've been on the phone with several people involved in this type of an industry. I've been analyzing the Illinois EPA website. I want to make sure everybody in the community, I want to make sure I'm as informed, because I'll tell you what, as difficult as I am when it comes to obstructionists, which I view Mayor Pisek as, and Kathy Kowitzel, Trustee Kowitzel, she doesn't like when I accidentally call her by her first name. I'm sorry. I'll use your proper title. The issue becomes how we try to remediate this problem with the gas station. And frankly, it's not that big of a problem. Some other local authority, media outlets, if you'd say, questioned and wanted to place blame all the way back to Mayor Ghilardi, I think is how you pronounced it. You know what? I don't care. These are more ways to divert the problem to something else and create obstacles. I don't care what happened 20 years ago. I don't care what happened with Mayor Broda. I don't even really care about the first 3 years of Pisek's authority as mayor. I care about what happened Monday night, what is happening currently. Okay, we can analyze that until we're blue in the face and try to figure out who's at fault or whatever. What you have now is you have me here, and this is what I'm offering, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish. If you like it, if you like that I'm trying to provide this information to you, follow along and vote for me when the time comes. Vote for the people that I recommend, and we will get that family square site developed. We can do it. We'll also get a couple other properties developed in Lyle. I really think that these are things that we can accomplish, especially if the economy nationally and globally remains the same. All right, so let's get started here real quick. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to contact and I'm going to make sure I'm going to reaffirm what our agreement is with Baxter and Woodman. All right. They do like an environmental master service plan. And so we'll reevaluate and make sure that an outside third party source makes sure that the Village of Lyle is not getting screwed. Okay. Because I'm not handing over any easy way for development in Lyle, for developers to just suddenly have a do not pass, go collect $200. This isn't a free pass. You're still going to have to follow our ordinances and our guidelines and the vision of our community. But those ordinances and guidelines, we're going to help you get through those things if the community sees this development proposal as an option that we like. And I think this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be getting people motivated through this platform and hopefully develop. I made a post. I'd like to develop an app for our village website that makes it fun, that makes it easy. I don't want it to be work when you're trying to figure stuff out from the Village of Lyle. The Village of Lyle website, our app for our community, as we watch our nation crumble, should be something that we can go to, that it's fun. As much as you want to pop open your Facebook app, you should want to pop open your Village of Lyle app. What's going on with the library, with the school district, with the fire district, all the stuff we see on our personal feed. We should have an app for the Village of Lyle that's that accessible and that interesting. I don't see why the Village of Lisle can't be this new technical juggernaut. Let's change the way. Let's be like the schools are, a hybrid platform for these schools, for this teaching. Let's be hybrid with our village government. Let's make it fun. Let's make it accessible. Let's find ways to share. Like I had made a suggestion about sharing pictures. Hey, if you go and visit some Galena or someplace that you think's cool and you see a design or a pattern or a street or some landscape that you think is fantastic, I want you to be able to pop on the Village app, send a little picture of that and say, hey, where could we landscape architecturally add this to our vision? You know, there's some things that the future is uncertain what that stuff will look like. And I think we can make it fun. And I think I can help to do that. That aside, Family Square, the NFR. Okay, so what happened? This is my complaint. And then I'm going to break down, and I'm actually going to go to the Illinois EPA website here for you, and we'll share that screen. So very simply put, from what I understood it, and then this was a potable water issue. There's old fuel tanks that were leaky underneath that ground that were discovered years back. And there's a remediation process that is put into place by the Illinois EPA to make sure that the vapors, you'll see there's a little hood, there's a little house in the back, and in the back corner, the southeast corner of the property, where they're monitoring the air quality that comes out of the ground there. When they exposed that ground before to remove those tanks, some neighbors have said that they smelt stuff. I don't recall it. I've owned my property across the street. I mean, I said a mile last time. I think it's probably 1,000 feet. I don't recall that, but maybe I wasn't downwind. So this was an issue about can that property owner sink a well? And the NFR, the no need for remediation, no further remediation requires that there's certain restrictions that are put in place. You know what? I might as well just share that screen right now while we talk about it. Let's go. Let me pop this up. Let me bear with me. I'm figuring out some of these things. And it's hard for me too because it's blurred on my screen, but from my checking, I think you guys should be able to see it pretty well. Okay. This is the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency fact sheet on no further remediation letters. That's exactly what Oxford Bank is seeking from the IEPA in order to move forward with a residential development on that property. I believe the obstructions are coming from these certain elected officials because they do not want residential development on that property. If you go back to past board meetings, past minutes, they're always talking about non-residential development. And so this is a way, by stopping this NFR, this says that we're only going to have retail space. And I can assure you from talking to the property owner, Lisle has a couple options left. We figure out how they can complete this contract and sale to this developer and move forward with a development, or they're going to reopen that strip mall as it sits. All right. And then we'll go back to that 1950s style strip mall. Probably not a lot of remodeling done to it. And they'll rent that space and they'll be bank owners of that property and it'll look much like it does right now. I've discussed and asked if they would be willing to tear that building down and leave it just a landscape, even if there was some sort of an intergovernmental agreement where the Village of Lisle, we could get the Lisle Park District, somebody to maintain that property while it just sat a vacant land. There doesn't seem to be any interest from the bank owner in that option. It's not as valuable of a property to them if it's completely demolished. So I've went that route. People talked about putting a garden there and stuff. Without the Village of Lisle buying that property, I don't think those are options. And I don't necessarily think the Village of Lisle buying that property at this point is a good idea, especially with certain liabilities. The mayor did ask one question that I think was a good question that I think Oxford Bank kind of avoided, but probably for legal reasons they avoided it. He asked who's responsible for it. Pretty much the property owner, and we all know this. If you buy a property, you get an attorney at closing, and basically you're saying if the guy before you that owned that was changing oil at his house for 40 years and dumping oil into the ground, they're not going to go back and look for this guy to clean it up. It's going to be your responsibility as that property owner. So those are some of the things we face. All right, so hopefully you guys had a chance to kind of read this top part of this. I'll scroll down here a little bit more. What is a no further remediation letter? This is important. It's issued by the EPA. It acknowledges that a site owner or operator has satisfied the respective BOL laws and regulations. The site qualifies to receive an NFR letter once the owner or the operator meets all program requirements applicable to the TACO remediation objectives. What the petitioner said is that he was working underneath the Lust agreement. That's if you look here, I don't know if my cursor is showing up. Yeah, it looks like it is. Right here, under the leaking underground storage tank program, an NFR letter signifies that no further corrective action is required in response to the Lust release. All right. The site recommendation, comprehensive NFR letter signifies that the site is protective of human health and environment. The entire conversation that was had last night, and this is what irritates me when I get called off for my going over 5 minutes of talking. The issues that were brought up last night about lock former, about public wells, about seepage into the mayor's well. The mayor is probably over a mile away from that site to the northeast, his property. The possibility of his well being affected by this tank is comical and obstructive. So what we're looking at is, and this was the joke of it. This is the whole thing that I had a problem with. The Village of Lisle, I can't remember when it happened, if it was because of lock former or not. The Village of Lisle has a village-wide ordinance that does not allow anybody to sink a well anymore at all, ever. Even if you have a well and you go to city water, you cannot keep your existing well. I can tell you from experience that that's the truth. After lock former, I decided to install city water at my property, and I wanted to keep my well open. I wanted to put a little pump there or something to wash my car, something where I don't have to pay city taxes. I don't have to pay that water bill for when I'm watering my lawn or when I'm doing anything. And you know what the village said? They sent out an inspector, and I had to pour bags of bentonite. It's like a clay. It's a dried clay that once it hits that water, it completely seals that well. They do not want, and then you have to break off the wellhead, bury it, and it does not exist anymore. And that's if you already had a well. So the idea that somehow on this property, somebody was going to come in commercially sink a well instead of hooking up to the city water is comical. It already exists. This person, this petitioner, just needed to come before the village and make sure that they have a letter of this type of compliance that they can now bring to the IEPA and get this no further remediation letter. Okay. And so another thing that they discussed, well, here's another one. So they were also asking for a highway authority agreement. What the highway authority agreement does is in the future, because it's on Ogden Avenue and that's the highway, that's Illinois Department of Transportation, because it's Route 34, a state highway. When road crews have to come and eventually put up a curb, or when the Village of Lisle has to put up a new sidewalk and you'll disturb that ground, there needs to be documented evidence of this at one time having a pollution problem. And so this is where it says in the thing, must I participate? Is there any other way? What are the ones I'm looking for? Can an NFR letter serve as an institutional control? Yes, the answer is yes. That's exactly what this is. We'll click fact sheet number 4. What are institutional controls? This is exactly what we were talking about. Restrictive covenants and deed restrictions, negative easements, ordinances adopted by administration of local government, and agreements between the property owner and the highway authority. Okay. This is all they were seeking. They were trying to follow the ordinances adopted administered by a local unit of government, which says we're not putting a well in. It's not about seepage. The letter itself will say that there is no further cleanup necessary. But why are controls required? Let me see. For example, the conditions of institutional control may prohibit groundwater beneath the site from being used as drinking water. Yep, that's exactly what we're talking. Maintenance of an engineered barrier to prevent exposure of contaminants. Violations of these could pose an unacceptable health and safety risk. That's why the guy was talking about building slab on grade. When the mayor said you could put a shovel in the ground and all of a sudden have $95 million worth of Environmental Protection Agency problems. No. What this NFR is going to require is if you're going to use this property for XYZ, you are going to have to follow certain requirements, local ordinances, and other requirements that we're putting in. If you want residential property, there's going to be a certain amount of space that is designated that it has to have a slab, a cap. I didn't understand this fully. I thought they were just putting the slab of concrete there because they didn't want to disturb the underground potential contaminants. It's my understanding that what the slab also does is it creates a barrier to stop vapors from seeping up. They'll have to have all kinds of controls that would pipe fumes elsewhere, monitor these fumes. All of these things come as the property gets developed. They're not something we do at this point. The conversation should have been 15 minutes. It should have been very, very simple. Like I said, we either don't understand what we're talking about or we're intentionally making it complicated and scaring people into thinking that there is some possibility that there is new seepage that could get into your wells. That is not the case. Okay? If you have an existing well somewhere else, it would have been already through this investigation from the IEPA and the cleanup process, you would have been told that you had to cap that well and get on city water. All of that stuff already happened. It's not a problem. It's not. Don't be scared. Man, this world, there's a certain amount of people, there's certain types of people in this world these days that want to scare you. In order to get you to do what they want. Don't be scared. We're looking into this stuff. We're going to make sure, hey, I live right here. I don't want to get poisoned. I'm not going to let us get screwed over like that. And if you see me, go ahead, question me. I'll look into it. I'll do just what we're doing here. Let's go back to this because there was something else I wanted to look at. Institutional controls. There was one. Oh, here it is. This is good. Why do I need to record an NFR letter with the county recorder? Okay. So right now there is no NFR letter. So the county doesn't have the information they need. Once you get the NFR letter, you must record the NFR letter to ensure current and future users of the property will be informed of conditions of the institutional controls and protected from unwitting exposure to the environmental health risks. So anybody who's trying to stop the NFR letter is ultimately making you more exposed to the potential health risks. This is a standard thing that is done for these wells, for these underground tanks that have been around the country for, since the 50s. I install these tanks, okay? And now they're different. They're double walled, they're fiberglass. You have to put certain amount of pea gravel stone. There's monitoring systems involved to see if to see if these wells or these tanks are leaking. The world has changed. We know better now. And this is us knowing better and making sure the property is cleaned up. The IEPA, as restrictive as everybody talks about our Illinois government being, they're not just going to hand over something that is going to potentially poison the air of the residents living in that thing without fully investigating it. It's been fully investigated. This is now them going, and if it's not, they'll go and they'll apply for this NFR and they won't get it. And then they'll have to do further remediation. Okay. But every control has been put in place, and that's what they're looking for. So, I think that basically covers it. Oh, they asked about deed restrictions. So there will be deed restrictions. You cannot dig without some of these controls. The question was asked, and this is, so sometimes Trustee Kuitzel, I get going down a road with her where I'm like, yeah, this is great stuff, Trustee Kuitzel. She has a good mind for certain things. But what I think happens is then all of a sudden she finds out that her brain is taking her somewhere that's going to accept something that she doesn't want to see in the village, which she doesn't want to see a residential property there. And so then all of a sudden it becomes, oh, wait, hold on, let's redirect our questions to something else because I could be giving permission to something that I personally don't want to see. Trustee Kuitzel and I are neighbors. We both live right off of Main Street. I think we both have a little bit different visions for what development in Lisle should be. We talk about this being unesthetically pleasing, but we don't seem to be doing anything to resolve that. She seems to be worried about the concrete blocks being there or whether the boarded up building is painted. I've said it from the beginning. Thank you, Trustee Carballo, for reminding the people during our village board meeting. If you're worried about the aesthetics of that site being unsightly, redevelop it. That's how we make it less unsightly. And he reminded us, that's what I've been saying from the beginning. So, and in closing, I'll remind you that the petitioner, he listed off some of those controls that are going to be in place for the deed restrictions. There's going to have to be a slab on grade to prevent vapors. There's what do they call it? Soil vapor intrusions and soil vapor extraction. All this stuff had to be done. And these things will restrict what's allowed. He said in the statement, he delivered the master plan to the IEPA that Lisle has for its vision, and it was accepted. And they will allow residential property to be developed over the top of that place as long as they have closed sump pumps, a slab on grade, these vapor testing. Okay, so I hope that this eases some of the minds of the people who were just told that they could be poisoned by this place. I'll remind you that on the other side of Ogden Avenue, where the bank sits, where the oil depot sits, those were gas stations for a long time. And right now there is property developed over the top of them. Same thing that had to happen here. Yeah. I hope that was a little bit more informative. I imagine I'll get some people telling me that I got some things wrong. So then if you do that, I'll study those things. And then I will get back to you with the new information that we find there. All right. I am not looking to fool anybody. I don't want to be fooled. I'm not going to let a bank or a developer squeeze us into something that we don't want. As difficult as I can be on the people that are being obstructive, like I said, this is not a do not pass go, collect $200 or pass go, whatever. You're going to have to follow what we want as Lisle. I hope these videos help us get a better understanding of what we want as Lisle. And I think if come April 6th, 2021, Election Day, I think if you put me in place as the mayor, I think I'll be able to help us develop this site. I'm already working on helping to develop the site south of the Hyatt. I think the message is out there. I've been contacted by people who are excited about the way that I talk about this stuff, developers, people involved in the labor industry. They are interested in the fact that this is a potential project. This is local jobs for the local community. And then it's local living space. Downtown Lisle's awesome, man. That metro station. And then we can start looking at different parking options, and I believe Metro wants to advance their train schedule over there. You know, we need to get feet in the streets. Okay. And when we get the feet in the streets, people were commenting about Trader Joe's again. I get it. You know, it'd be cool. I live on Main Street. I would much rather take my Wolf Warrior 11 Razor scooter over there and shop than have to get in my car. I want that little local community. I like living in the downtown area like that. And I think that we can develop it and we can make it a place where people don't even have to own a car. You can work in the city. You can live in Lisle. You can shop in Lisle. You can Uber to downtown Lisle and then hang out for the day. You don't have to get in your Uber and go to Naperville, or you can spend the day there. Little shopping, lunch, dinner, night entertainment, and even live there if you want. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in, for paying attention. We're going to keep looking. Every issue that comes up, when there's questionable ones, when there's tough ones like this, I'll probably come back to you and try to be a little bit informative. My intentions are 10 minutes and 15 minutes. And as I look up, it looks like I'm at 25 minutes. So I'm sorry about that. But we're talking about building a potential structure that I hope will be a fixture in Lisle 100 years from now. Trustee Kwitzel is part of the Heritage Society. I want the Heritage Society 100 years from now to look at this Family Square property and say, those guys did a nice job. And when they look back at meeting minutes, when they look back at these videos, which are going to look ancient and archived, they're going to say, this is the group of people that got it done. So come on, Trustee Kwitzel, you got a couple more years here on the board before you're up for re-election. Let's work together. Let's figure out what works for you and your vision and what works for the rest of us and our vision. And let's hopefully work together and create something for the community. It's heartbreaking what we're going through. All right. I never know how to say goodbye here. So that'll do it. Thank you guys. Share the video. Share this with other people in Lisle. We need to get the word out. First off, that I'm running for mayor. Second, that these things that people have been complaining about are being paid attention to and actively trying to be fixed. All right. So thank you guys very much. And I will hopefully chat with you sometime soon. The next village board meeting is, I don't know, 10 days. All right. And don't forget to vote April 6th.